something you can share with the rest of us, Amazing Larry?
We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy.
The New World Order will include changes in the family, the workplace, religion.
Buzzards gotta eat, same as worms.
He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man, but the tares are the children of the wicked one. The enemy that sows them is the devil.
The question of how and why the United Nations is the crux of the great conspiracy to destroy the sovereignty of the United States and the enslavement of the American people within a UN one-world dictatorship is a complete and unknown mystery.
Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday. And one thing that was recently wasted at noonday was the Nord Stream pipeline. The Nord Stream pipeline was destroyed by intelligence communities in coordination with the Norwegian Special Forces, of all people. And of course they want to drive up the price of oil so high that people will consider these electric vehicles that they're coming out with. There is no diesel shortage. There was never a diesel shortage. There was never any type of problem at all like that. But a problem that did occur recently was a massive chemical spill in the state of Ohio in East Palestine. The chemical was a substance banned in 1974 as it was used in World War I. There is plenty of evidence to suggest that this train with the chemicals on it was detonated. They have said the rails are bent and that another train wreck with chemicals occurred in the state of Michigan. The city of Cincinnati has cut off use of the Ohio River. This is to drum up support for a ridiculous infrastructure bill which will incorporate the climate cults and will also confiscate a large portion of the land in the United States, including 33% of the beaches. That's right, 33%. These green zones will be, in theory, given back to Mother Nature, as they will officially be taken out of use for the public, which means that the federal government will buy it and build something there which will not be allowed to go into remediation and will never be torn down. Then they will conduct experiments from those areas from above and below ground. But if they are above ground, they may notice a steady stream of what the mainstream is calling Chinese spy balloons. And this is very much a, hey, look over here while we're doing this behind our back, while also being funded by us. I'm curious why the United States Air Force, Space Force, Navy, Army, intelligence agencies would allow that to happen. Well, it's because it's just them. They probably took readings off everyone, and consequently and ironically, I don't think anything was actually shot down. It looks like Photoshop and Adobe Premiere Pro. One thing that's not video edited is this picture of a maglev railway system at the Denver International Airport, which also looks like a Garden of Babylon. These maglev trains run on electromagnetic energy and can go from New York to LA in 22 minutes. Why can't we have this instead of having electric cars forced on us? And please note that these charging stations are now blowing up and catching on fire and emitting sparks and electricity at people while they're charging their vehicle.
I'm gonna stick like glue, stick because I'm stuck on you.
Amazon has spent the last 2 years building vehicles, as they have built hundreds of 777s, planes, in an attempt to compete with FedEx, UPS, the United States Postal Service, as we move closer to one world shipping. Russia versus Ukraine is a laughingstock and is a money laundering Ponzi scheme. President Zelensky does not need to be honored in any way. There has been a conflict in that area over the border since 2014, and this conflict likely being funded by Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street as they continually buy each other's stock and products to create a circular financial vacuum, which in turn controls most actions in the stock market as their algorithms pretty much buy everything for them. Beware of infiltrated COINTELPRO alternative right-wing media discussing topics which originate from the mainstream media, while also avoiding the mainstream communist far-left Luciferian narrative. And be very, very careful what you put in your ears and in your eyes, because in the future, people will have their brain downloaded to the cloud with neuro-link. They will have singularity and the Internet of Things as their predetermined Luciferian hive mind thoughts, feelings, and actions are literally governed by and through the cloud, which in turn is run by Lucifer. The brain interface will tell them what and how to think, and the exact information and metadata from within their thoughts, feelings, and actions will be on another part of the cloud which they do not have access to, but other companies will have access to that information. We should be able to sell our information to companies instead of having it taken from us or having it made a requirement for us to give out. Our valuable information, as we are a walking healthcare file, is worth anywhere from $5,000 to $50,000 to the average hacker who is operating on the dark web. The brain cloud information will be stored on a Hydra platform, which has already been built and is being used now. Additional information has come out about the East Palestine chemical spill, which suggests that information was removed before the train took off, and it was that the chemical, which we won't name, is being alleged that it affects children in a negative manner. And this is a long-standing strategy of the Kabbalist Luciferians who want the population to stay weak and easy to control, while remaining at around 600 million. And the culture they are creating within our current young generation will do just that. The days of his youth hast thou shortened, thou hast covered him with shame. He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I think many of us have seen evidence by now that the earthquake in Turkey was definitely caused by HAARP, or an extra low or extraordinarily low frequency, and there has been needless suffering and pain there. Many occurrences in the Bible did happen to be in modern-day Turkey. There's a ton of archaeological evidence in Turkey which completely substantiates every piece of the Bible. You know, chemical warfare has been around for a very long time, in fact even since the Black Plague. Tamarlane the Lame was a grandson of Kublai Khan. When he was pillaging the countryside, he would siege a city. He would use people who had been infected by the bubonic plague, and he would catapult them in to the nearby city in order to get them infected. Yes, biochemical warfare has been around for a very long time and has been used so much that now we have chemicals and metals in our food and in the air and in the water, and they're constantly chemtrailing and putting this stuff in the atmosphere. Because the more metals and chemicals, the easier it is to conduct a frequency through those chemicals and metals, along with light and heat energy. It's looking very much like 6G will include something to the tune of allowing for personal downloading of enhancement, meaning you will be able to improve aspects of yourself with the technology. It will allow for genetic modification, so imagine what that can do. And of course this is already being done with CRISPR-Cas9 technology. The genetic alteration is the devil sitting on the steps of the temple of God, showing himself as God. The same could be said for a transformation or genetic alteration. First there will be a falling away, and that man of sin will be revealed, the son of perdition, the one who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God, sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. And that is what the Transformer movement and genetic alterations are all about. They definitely want you living in a smart city. They want all your devices tied together. They want all of our vehicles tied to our devices. Then they want us to go to neuro-link and download our brain to the cloud, and they will attempt to download information into our brains. Meanwhile, I think many of us will actually be living on the outside of the smart cities in the fringe, or borderlands area, or just out in the country altogether. Communists, occultists, pagans, Satanists, elite secret societies, just used and weaponized the medical industrial complex in an attempt to reduce our numbers, while the Rothschilds and other elites invested in face bandages, then used the mainstream media, famous people, fake politicians, movies and music to spit on us. And this was also further the 6G genetic modification agenda, which again will allow for personal upgrades and enhancements using some 3D printing technology, as well as electromagnetic frequency, heat, and light energy. We will very likely be turned into a modern-day pincushion voodoo doll, and some will receive the RFID chip in their hand. I believe they want the rest of us fighting over rat meat by the garbage can outside the smart city limits. And in the smart cities, the devil will sit in the temple of God, showing himself as God.